What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of the Balanced Perception YouTube channel. And today we're back with an episode that's awesome. We're going to be building Stein Scythe from Soul Eater. This was one of my favorite animes. Of course, I haven't watched it in a very long time, but I have extremely fond memories of it. Well, without further ado, let's hop to it. So this should be a relatively easy build. We have our scythe already printed, and then we have our cross connector already printed. I could have just bought one from the store, which I actually did, but I couldn't find one as large and in the size that I wanted, so I just went ahead and made one and printed it. And then we have a PVC pipe running through the cross piece, along with another PVC pipe that's going to act as the actual, staff or, the rod to hold up the scythe. I decided to go ahead and purchase these, which are 3/4 of an inch, because it just didn't make sense really to print them when you can just buy a pipe and use that instead. So all we really have to do is connect all of these pieces together, which as you can see are not glued together yet, and then attach them to the pipe. So I'm going to be showing you guys exactly how I do that, but also I'm going to be demonstrating the difference in using JB Weld, which is, like liquid concrete basically, versus using E6000. For these pieces right here, we're going to be using E6000, a very, ample, healthy amount of it, because we of course want it to stick together, but we don't need the level of adhesion that we're going to need when we actually put the back piece of this into the rod, because we don't want it to spin, obviously. So we're going to put a ton of JB Weld in there, put it in the position we like, and then set it against the wall or something, and that right there will pretty much do it. So without further ado, let's hop to it. So as I've stated, we're going to go ahead and glue together all 4 pieces of the scythe. We did use Lubon to cut this out. If you haven't seen that episode, great episode. It makes these pegs, these holes that slices everything. It's a phenomenal program. So we have our pegs here, and we already stuck our, peg pieces in. So we're just going to add a ton of glue, a very large amount. The more, the better. And then if any seeps on the outside, we actually just use that to basically seal the outside of the piece. We'll just use it to fill in any cracks. So that's one piece connected like so. And when we smush it together, we get a little bit of glue seeping around, and we just use that like so to go ahead and seal the crack. And that's one piece down. And a little bit more glue seeping around. And then we're just going to rinse and repeat. We have another peg here. And again, use tons and tons of glue, because the more you use for this, the better your bond. It's unlike super glue. Well, super glue, you can use a ton too, but it doesn't seem to have the exact same effect as using a ton of E6000 does. Then you're gonna wanna smush it together like so. 3 pieces now glued together. And then for the final piece here, go ahead again, a ton of glue. And this is the larger E6000 amount. I actually bought this by accident. It doesn't have the metal tip on it. Most of them have this little metal tip that helps you guide exactly where you want the glue to go. But I accidentally bought the wrong one, and I was like, I'm still gonna use it. And that's trying to go on the wrong way. So to redo that piece. Yeah, let's get that piece ready. There we go. So, and bam, like so, smushing it together. And just like that, we have the main piece of the scythe glued together. Now this glue does take, I would say on average, a good 2 hours to just get to the point where you can no longer pull it apart. So we're just gonna put that off to the side and let it dry. Okay, so next up, we're going to glue our cross in place. I went ahead and just marked it with a purple, marker exactly where we want it to be. So we're going to take this off And we're going to be using JB Weld for this because I really do not want this to come loose. And then we're also going to be using JB Weld on the piece that holds it to the scythe. Now I do recommend letting the scythe dry first. I'm personally not, just because I'm a bit impatient and want this done rather immediately. But I recommend that if you're doing this, definitely wait for the E6000 that we just put on to dry. But if you don't, you know, as long as you keep everything aligned, you'll be perfectly fine. Now, as you see, I did put on gloves for this glue, for this glue, because it is carcinogenic, it's pretty toxic. I don't know if the E6000 is toxic, but I know specifically on this label, they said, do not get this on your skin. So I will be adhering to those, you know, recommendations. Now, I'm just gonna wanna go ahead, mix this up. This stuff is a lot thicker than the E6000, and black and white will make gray, so that's how you know when you've done essentially enough mixing, because you'll have a nice gray, pretty thick. It'll be like molasses almost, or yeah, thicker than syrup, definitely. Just very thick, I don't know, gluey substance. I'm actually gonna bring this over here so I can put this on there just in case I don't want to get any more on the table. I really need to get a new cloth because I've gotten so much on this table, but that's in the future. So, okay, as you can see, we have a decent gray, I don't know, amount or whatever. And we're just gonna go ahead and dump that on the inside. Well, hold up. Let me make sure this is the side I want. Not that one. Yeah, we want it to go in this one. So we're going to put it inside here, like so. And we really don't have to worry about smearing it around, because as I put the tube in, it will do that for me. So I'm gonna ram this tube through here. And yep, as you can see, a ton came out on the other side. So then I'm gonna take it back out and put it back through on the other side. And a ton still came out, which is perfectly fine. I'm gonna do it one more time, just trying to coat those inner walls with as much as we can. And yeah, and then of course a lot is going into the bottom side of the PVC tube, so I'm just gonna take all that out, and we're gonna use that for our actual scythe. There we go. Let's just keep this going. We're gonna put it right there, which is where we wanted it. And then any of the extra, I'm just gonna use to coat around the bottom and the outside to also keep it in place, like so. And that's basically all you have to do. And I guarantee you, this is not going to move. This stuff is very strong. It forms an extremely strong bond. And that's basically all you have to do. You want to remove any extra, because it is a pain to try to, well, actually it sands down very easy, but just an extra step you can skip if you remove it by hand. So now we're going to coat the other side. I'll show you guys that. Just putting all around the front here. And we're going to be painting this tube all black, so we don't have to worry about the colors at all. Everything's just gonna be black. So we got that going on here. And just like that, we've got this thing sealed exactly where we want it. Now we're gonna switch over and do the same thing, essentially for the scythe part. But now in the scythe, there is a lot more room in there. It can move around a lot more. So we got our scythe piece right here, and as you can see, yep, it came apart a little bit. That's perfectly fine though, we'll just smush it back together. We're going to dump a ton of the glue inside of the scythe. And again, would recommend waiting. I'm just impatient and I want it done now. And because it's a little bit late my time, and I'm going to let it dry overnight so that it'll be ready in the morning. All right, so doing the same thing here, just coating the inside, just dumping a ton of this stuff in there, because as long as it's touching something, essentially, it's going to stick. And yep, there we go. That's all we had to do. Then for Stein Scythe, we want the longer piece sticking out the back. So, boom, just like that. We have completed essentially the major steps of Stein Scythe. Now let me get this to go back into place. Again, this is something you risk doing if you're not patient, like I am not patient. Let's see if I can get it to go back together. There we go. All right, and then what you're going to want to do is just make sure you have it in whichever orientation you want. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and we're going to let it dry. So I will see you guys back in the morning. All right, guys, so it's been a few hours, well, actually more than a few. It's been like a good 12, 14 hours. And as you can see, everything is holding and glued in place. It's not rotating. It's not moving at all. That's why I love, having two different glue options. Again, we use JB Weld for this part. JB Weld for the cross here. And then we use E6000 for the actual blade itself. Now we're gonna move on to the next part, which is probably the easier part. We're just gonna go ahead and tape off a section of this blade right here. It's got a ridge that runs along it. I'm gonna tape off the top part because we're gonna spray paint the bottom silver and spray paint the top black. And then what we're gonna do is connect it like so. And right now it's gonna spin obviously, but yeah, it's gonna end up being like this. So that is the next step in this project. And I'm gonna head out to the garage, do that real quickly. I'm not gonna film that because there's nothing interesting about spray painting silver and black spray paint, but that's where we stand now. So on to the next part. So this is where we're at so far. I've basically just got the silver spray painted on there. And now we just have to do the black and coat the entire PVC tubing in black. This is a much easier part, as you know, it's just blasting black all over everything. I will say if you are spray painting, I just had this issue. I was using two grays that were both, labeled as the same dark metallic gray by the same maker, Krylon, but they were two different lot numbers, as in they were created at different times. And the colors were a bit different. So just a little heads up, if you are, spray painting, try to always use the same lot numbers or the same batch numbers as they both were produced at the same time. So ideally the color should be the exact same. Anyway, so we're gonna go ahead and rip off this painter's tape. Actually, it only takes a second because it's all linked up. So I can just show you guys right now how we're looking. That's one side and the other side here. The blade looks very, very nice so far, especially for just a raw print. There's been nothing done to this. I haven't filled in the gaps or anything. It's just a raw print right off the bat. And that's what we have so far. So now we are going to go ahead and hit everything in black. So see you in a second. All right, guys, so I just removed the tape off of our scythe. And this is how we're looking. It looks really well, in my opinion. I actually used a new black. I have to look at it. It wasn't matte black or gloss black. It was called like hammerhead black or something like that. And it kind of made these black sparkles, I guess you could say, on the, I don't know how to really describe it. You would kind of just have to use it. I wouldn't say use it if it's something that, you really need, trying to test it out, but I'll link it for you. It just painted very differently than what I'm accustomed to. Anyways, though, we have our blade here. We have the top sticking out like Stein's Scythe does from Soul Eater. This is just another piece of this rod, which I just cut off. This is the 3x4 inch PVC rod. And this right here goes into the bottom like so. And once it goes all the way in, there we go. And bam, we have our scythe. And as you can see, I'm holding it like so. Hopefully you guys can see that, and it's all holding well. I can hold it with one hand, and it's holding together. So everything seems to be working very well. So what I'm gonna do actually is zoom out and show you this thing fully assembled, fully standing. It is probably about 5 feet tall. I'm 6 feet 1 inch or so. So I'm gonna show you that beside me. Give me 1 second. So as you can see, we have the entire staff here Scythe fully assembled here, and it is about 6 feet tall. That's the height, well actually a little over 6 feet. That's the height that I chose for it to be because I am 6 feet 1 inches about, and this is probably around, I don't know, 6 feet 5 inches, give or take or so. And as you can see, we're holding it and it is sturdable. It is good to go. And you can, of course, can make it whatever height you want. I just chose the PVC, rod to be this height. You can chop it wherever you need. And I think the actual scythe itself came out pretty well. Hopefully you guys can see the contrast between the black and the silver. Maybe using a little bit brighter silver, but I'm sure it will look brighter in the daylight than it will with these fluorescent bulbs. So keep that in mind. Also, you might notice that I haven't even glued down this actual part right here to stop it from spinning, but the friction from the plastic and the paint has actually stopped it from rotating. So it's not even rotating, and that's just literally due to the friction between the paint and the PVC. Oh, sorry, the paint, the PVC pipe, and then the 3D printed cross that I made to hold everything together. So that actually turned out better than I actually expected. But I really like the way that this came out. This is going to be a great addition to any Stein cosplayers from Soul Eater. If you haven't seen that anime, definitely go watch it. It is absolutely phenomenal. But this was our weekend build and it came out very, very well. I'd actually love this a lot. And I'll probably be showing this off at the next cosplay market, which I have coming up in February. So yeah, that's what we have. Anyways though, I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Thank you so much for following along. If you made it to this point, I greatly appreciate it. And until next time, stay boundless. See you all. Bye-bye.